I had said that I suspected that the market goes parabolic much earlier than most expect. Well, today Bitcoin skyrocketed past $57,000. So let's look at the money flows at Bitcoin and, very importantly, some altcoins. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realized the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for a discussion on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul invests in many, many things. None of this is to be taken as financial advice. Paul is also not your financial advisor. So if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button. And it's Tuesday. Last week we talked about doing this video with Paul on Tuesday rather than on normally scheduled Wednesday. So we're going to go ahead and get rolling and jump right into it. Paul, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here. Markets are up. Looks like altcoins are bubbling up. There's so much going on. It's really exciting. So yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, it is exciting. I talk about the phases of the market cycle, right? And the most exciting time to be around has been like the last 6 months. It doesn't feel as exciting as like what the next 6 to 10 months will feel like. But the next 6 to 10 months are only extremely exciting if you were around for the previous time when everything was cheaper and you stocked up. That's what makes the next part super exciting. So
yeah, I think
the next part is the most exciting but it's the most exciting when your bags are already packed.
Yeah, exactly. And in order to really appreciate the time we're in now, you have to have sat through the really quiet bear market sideways, nothing's going on, listening to all the negativity and the FUD about Bitcoin and altcoins and everything else. And now here we are, it's sort of screaming higher. And, Michael Saylor bought more and the equity markets are rocketing into new highs. And actually, interestingly, we're still not at a point where everybody's buying into this yet. So we're not at that everything top. It does look like things are just going to keep accelerating. I mean, obviously we'll look at the charts in a moment, but the jury's out potentially as to whether we're ready for a correction here in Bitcoin and maybe the altcoins will take off. That push-pull thing that we see, and maybe the equity markets are getting close to perhaps a top that needs a correction. But it's still a bull market. It's still a bull market environment. Even if we do get a correction, it'll be a correction that we'll be looking to buy into. And the macro position that we kind of stuck with since I don't know when was that the Fed would be cutting interest rates and we'd be in a big risk-on position for the foreseeable future. Now, some of that was during some very bearish market opinions, and some of it is going to be whilst the market is moving up aggressively. I thought we might get a bit of a correction into the halving and then things might go afterwards. So it's kind of going a bit early for me, but you called it that way. But I think what is really interesting about the market right now is the position of the dollar, position of precious metals, but also the position of altcoins, because there's a lot of really interesting technical patterns coming out to suggest that we're going to see a breakout of the ones that haven't already gone. So we're seeing Bitcoins going, but we're also seeing, that ETH is catching up really fast, and Cardano, I had a look at that just before we came on air, and I just bought a little bit of it because I think we're ready to break out there. And there's a few things that just like suddenly everything's looking really exciting no matter where you look. So that's good. So that's even though sentiment is still relatively cautious, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the money flows looking like? What is the US dollar looking like? And then if you could briefly run us through the NASDAQ, what's going on with traditional stocks. And then we're going to jump into Bitcoin's chart, which is absolute monstrous green candle this morning. And then, yeah, I'd love to see more about the altcoin setups. And then we'll dive into a few requests we had on the last video,
Yeah.
as well as some that come in today. We are just going to keep this about an hour in total, guys.
Sure. Yeah. So if you can see my screen here, this is where I usually start looking at the Dow Jones 30 stocks. I know it's only 30, but it's still a good indication of what the mind of the market is. And we broke through a new all-time high here, whilst the market was in a range, and it's probably really surprising people that it's managed to squeeze this high. But remember, this range, that's a lot of sideways price action, so it can trend much further from here. Although it's not a base, it's still part of a continuation of a trend. So there could be much more to go on the upside. I'm not saying it's going to be a straight line, but that gives us a macro picture of risk on, which means that people are looking to invest in Bitcoin, altcoins, and other riskier things because they're making money. That's people's pensions that are making money. And it means they'll have more cash. It's companies that are making money. They're going to make investments. They're going to hopefully pay staff more, so that means that they'll make investments. So it kind of works around the system, works its way around to all sorts of other areas. It's just generally good news that equities are going up. So that's the Dow Jones Transportation is going sideways, but that's looking like a bullish pattern. The Nasdaq, which has been leading the way, is still going up. Very similar pattern between the two. It's hitting up a bit of resistance here. So it's taken the last 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions, still not broken the high. So there could be a bit of a correction coming, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. The S&P 500, that's just surging. It had a really big week last week. It's coming off the high as profit takings happened, breaking 5,000, massive psychological level. But for people who've been watching this particular channel and listening to our kind of bullish views, from way back, this won't be any surprise. And the thing with technical analysis is we're looking for a sign that the trend is over in the chart, even though we listen to sentiment, and that is a big part of trading and thinking about what's called contrary opinion theory, which basically says you've got to be careful when everybody goes one way in the market. But ultimately, the signal comes from me, from the technicals, and the trend is still up. That doesn't mean it won't correct. It could come easily back down to 4,800 and then consolidate and then go up again. But the broad direction is still bullish. Russell 2000. A lot of people talk about the Russell 2000 and they say, oh, it hasn't gone. Russell 2000 is small cap stocks. So as a reason why we're not in a bull market, they look at these small cap stocks and say, well, they're going to break down and it's not a true bull market and all that kind of stuff. But this actually looks very much like it's about to break out. This is a really nice little technical pattern. It reminds me of what some of the altcoins are doing. They've been in this range and they are the riskier plays, but this is usually the next thing to go. When the majors go and they suddenly look a little bit expensive, the market wants to buy some more riskier trades that are a bit cheaper that haven't gone, and then you start to see everything else popping off. So Russell 2000 looks like it's ready to go. Individual Nasdaq stocks, they're generally looking bullish, so I won't really need to go into that. But where I think the focus is quite important right now is yields have gone up a little bit, but it's still way below 5% in terms of the US 2-year. The 10-year is knocking up against resistance here at 4.3, and it's struggling to get through. Now, if that starts to go down, then this chart might look quite bearish on yields, which basically means that interest rates will start to come down, which also means that the amount of money that's in the system will go up, because when yields go down, borrowing costs fall, and that there's actually a really bullish thing. So we shall see. But where the biggest focus for me is, excuse me, is on the dollar. As we've discussed before, when the dollar goes down, that kind of plays into what interest rates are doing. So whilst the dollar is the kind of how would you describe it? It's the indicator that perhaps interest rates are going down. It's more that interest rates are moving and the dollar responds, rather than the dollar falling makes it happen, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the effect rather than the cause. But either way, we were looking for it to start to turn around this 105. And again, we're stuck in this range. We've been stuck in this range for quite some time, going back to January 23. So well over a year, it's been playing around this kind of 103 as a central point. But at some stage, it's got to pick a direction. Either I'm wrong and the dollar's going to rally a lot, but there's been lots of reasons why the dollar should rally in terms of geopolitical risk, in terms of what was going on in the Middle East, when equities were falling, and Russia, all that stuff, whatever you want to call a good excuse of strong numbers in the US coming out, still hasn't moved. And it looks like this is going to break lower. So when the market doesn't go up, the risk falls to the downside. So when this starts to go down, that's a really good indication that risk on is going to start to get very hot. And I'm not, we'll see where Bitcoin and everything else are at that time, but that would be a really important piece of the puzzle. For a start, it's not going up, which is an important piece, but even more important would be it going down. And that would be really great for lots of risk assets. Now, as far as Bitcoin's concerned, it doesn't really matter right now what the dollar index is doing.
Apparently, right.
It's just taking off. Now, as I mentioned, it could be Michael Saylor buying more and getting more aggressive. And I didn't hear what he had to say, and I sort of caught a little bit of Kathy Woods talking about, in the market, talking about something, but what's she going to say? She's really bullish on Bitcoin, so I kind of discount those sort of comments anyway, because they're uber bullish, and uber bulls are just going to talk about it going up. But it's interesting that they're getting airtime. That might be an indication we're close to an intermediate top, and this kind of this surge that we've just seen in Bitcoin that's kind of gone a bit beyond what most people think might be the start of the beginning of the start of a correction. So again, we need to get confirmation, but that is a really sharp move, and it's kind of going at a rate that's way beyond its accelerated trend rate. And whilst I don't mind that, what I worry about these not worry, but the risk is that if it goes up really fast, it can come back really fast. So we've got to be just mindful that it may be getting a little bit hot up here.
It is interesting how big that spike is, right? I think Michael Saylor was buying 150 million more of Bitcoin, which doesn't account for that. Maybe it caused some FOMO and some others, because that's a $5,000 increase in Bitcoin's price in a really short period. That's some crazy stuff. What's interesting is for it to be going up this early before the halving is unusual, and it might break its previous highs aren't very much higher than here. So we're at 57. The previous all-time high was just under 70, which really isn't all that far away. So we're about 13,000 away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think we're going to take the high out. It's just a question of what will be the path to that breakout. Will it be via a bigger correction, or is it just going to go straight for it and keep going? To be fair, if you compare it to where equities are, so we've got the Bitcoin chart up here, and let's put the Nasdaq on. So see where Bitcoin is, and you see where the Nasdaq is. Relatively speaking, you've had this move up correction and a break into a new high. So it is underperforming because the Nasdaq is already way higher. So it has the potential to break what would be the equivalent of kind of 69,000 and go to the equivalent, I suppose, of 100,000. But will we get this sort of correction before? Probably. But we're looking at the long term anyway. So the focus generally is the long term. We try to finesse the short term, but the underlying campaign or structure is that we're in a bull market, which has been our view pretty much since we've been on the show.
Yeah, I'm I try to gauge what sentiment I'm feeling, what kind of things I'm seeing in the market to get an idea of how the bull run goes, and it's hard to predict it. very well. Just gives you an idea. And what I do is I kind of lay out the different paths it could possibly take. What's interesting is I didn't expect today it to go up by 5,000. And what does that mean? I did expect that our bull run was going to be much earlier than most were expecting. And the reason is with institutions coming in buying Bitcoin, it's going to drive Bitcoin's price up higher faster. And really what gets public awareness of anything is Bitcoin's price hitting highs, and then the news starts covering it all the time. And then most of the public starts saying, oh, Bitcoin, shoot, I knew I should have looked into it. I need to look into it. And so then finally they get serious about looking into it. And as they do, they figure out it's more than just Bitcoin going on here, that blockchain and cryptographic encryption unlock some things the internet couldn't do before. And then they start going, oh, crap. And then they FOMO in. And that's part of what causes this blow off top. So we'll have some of that from institutions too, that just kind of ignored Bitcoin and haven't taken meaningful positions. And so I think as institutions, well, the spot ETFs were approved, I was like, oh my gosh, this was going to lead to an early rally. And we're seeing that play out. Now, there'll probably be a correction period. So we'll have a run, and, corrections almost always still happen. So don't think it's going to be green only from here. It won't. Just going into the halving looks like there's some FOMO, and maybe we break the previous highs before the halving, and then we probably, after the halving, there's almost always this lull. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have kind of a lull and some sideways trading in the Bitcoin price for a couple months while the action maybe goes somewhere else, maybe into the altcoins or other places. Want to give a shout out those joining us on the stream. We are live. Bro says, good morning, gents. TA on market retracing. So bro's already thinking about a retracement, which is always good when you see these kind of green candles, because what the bull market usually happens 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 3 steps forward, 1 step back. And we see that over and over again. Every once in a while, I go like 7 steps forward and like 3 steps back. Like it'll just run really hard, faster, and it's like, oh my gosh, and you don't end up having a meaningful retracement to really enter in on something you hadn't entered in on. All right, let's jump over to some of the suggestions. Paul, we had Jasmy, ICP, Omi, Vision Games, and Litlab games were all ones that came in, were suggested.
Sure.
Do you mind if we jump over to Jasmy?
Yeah, Jasmy. What a breakout, eh? What a fantastic breakout we've seen. This is a pattern that's been repeated amongst quite a few altcoins, where you have a bear market, consolidation, very long basing pattern, and then the breakout happens really quickly, and if you kind of blink, you miss it. But we've seen the break, which was here at 0.008, nearly a cent, and the first phase of the breakout has happened, and of course you get a lot of profit taking, and that's come in at a resistance point at 1.7 cents. But this price action is resembling what we call a kind of a pennant or a flag consolidation, and all that is the market is staying relatively near the high. Now, there's no guarantee that it's going to keep going, so I don't want to make it sound like 100% it's guaranteed. But in a fast-moving market, this is what we look for to imply that we're going to get another breakout higher. And what normally would happen is the market stays in this range for a short period of time. And then defining short is kind of difficult sometimes because it really depends on the scale of the chart. But I would say like a week or so would be enough for it to go sideways. And then we'd look for a breakout of this 1.8 resistance. And then when that happens, you probably see a very similar kind of move up as we've seen before, to extend the move higher. So it's as I say, it's not guaranteed, but the chart's looking good. And as long as it stays above this breakout point, I think the long term is also, looking good from a technical point of view. And that's a break back below here is where I would say, start to bail out and maybe look at other things, especially if they're outperforming. But we can draw a trend line in, and that trend line would come across here, and you can see how much it's accelerated from that line. So one strategy that technicians employ is to stay in the market as long as the main upward trend line is not broken. So over time, that draws you higher and higher. In other words, your risk is being reduced because it's coming towards the market, and then if it breaks it, you get out. I mean, it's not as easy as that, but it kind of is as well at the same time. It's a very simple trading rule. But sometimes the market breaks it and then goes back up again, which can be a bit frustrating. But that's the market. It does different things at different times. So yeah, overall the breakout is good. The gains seem to be sticking, and it looks like it's getting ready for another move. So for me, it's still in the buy camp.
Yeah, Japan came out with some big news, very bullish on crypto, and then some news about Jasmy. And so that's what caused this to absolutely take off. I mean, this is the company we've talked about in the past where many of the people running it are former Sony executives, which business in Japan is deeply tied to the government in Japan. And so I figured that they've kind of kept it quiet in any language that I can understand as far as what's been happening with Jasmy. And so I was investing in Jasmy based on who was running it. And so it was somewhat of a speculative bet. I usually like to know more fundamentals on what's going on. But if a bunch of former Sony executives go off and create a cryptocurrency company, and the price has been massively punished by the bear market, and Japan, I suspect, is going to be one of, very favorable. It's already been very favorable for legislation on crypto. It just seemed like a really good bet. And so I still think this is early days compared to what it can do. So Jasmy is still a buy. It's gone 3x from where we were buying it at. And actually, I picked up some at much lower than, so it's about 5x up. It's not as juicy as it was, but it's still a buy. All right, let's look at ICP.
Yeah. So internet computer, again, that's another one that was sort of going sideways. We've got a nice little technical pattern, broke out, and it's broken its resistance and continued to actually give some really positive signals. It's consolidated against some really strong resistance here at $15, which we've discussed. That line was on there before. But what's more important about where it is now is this looks like it's getting ready for a secondary breakout. So we've had the first move, we've had the consolidation, and it looks like now we're getting ready for a breakout from this this kind of pause, which is actually this sort of pattern I really like because it takes a while for it to create. So the market's been going sideways now for nearly 3 months, and in that time, people sort of lose a bit of interest. They've taken their profits, they start looking elsewhere, and that's exactly what you want. The market is near the high of its high print, as it were, and although there was some selling, it hasn't really managed to stick on the downside, and these gains are sticking as well. So nothing's guaranteed. I'm not saying it's definitely going up. I'm just saying that this is a nice pattern. We call it a symmetrical triangle, and it's got 2 points on the downside, resistance point, support point, sorry, and 2 on the resistance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's being compressed into a range, and then we should get a breakout. Now, whether that breakout will be this week or next week or at all is, we have to wait and see. Some of technicals is actually waiting for levels to break to confirm, but one can get in earlier. There is a greater risk in doing so because the pattern's not complete, but there's also potentially greater rewards too because you're getting in slightly inverted commas early. So the setup's a nice one. I'm still bullish on it just because the general change of direction is still in play, and the big level really is this $15.31 that's capped it. But I think we could get a buy signal before then, as it breaks this upper resistance line. So for me, it's still in the buy camp.
Yes, this was an interesting one. I don't usually touch things at such high market caps like where ICP is at, but I do think this one has amazing long-term potential. Well, not like incredible, like is it going to go 100x from here or 1000x from here? Probably not 100x from here. There's a chance it goes 100x from where it was at. And when it hit down at $3, I called it as too good to pass up. It was just too juicy. And what's scary about buying it at these lows is you don't know if it's going to go lower. And there wasn't any show in the charts that it would reverse. But at $3, it was just too good to pass up. So that was 1/4 the market cap of where we're at now. And so that would have put it in a market cap of about 1.5 billion. And at that, even something that's at 1.5 billion, but it's ICP, like it's got a strong team. It reached a point that I felt like it could possibly go 100x, even though it was solidly in the blue chip category. And so that's why it was a buy up here. It's still a small buy for those that are looking for blue chips. What can it do from here? Maybe 15 to 25x. And so it just doesn't have as high a potential returns. It's got lower risk than some of the altcoins out there. Some people are looking for low risk, and 15 to 25x is really good for that. That's what a buy in that category is. If I were looking to hold blue chips and I was looking to hold larger amounts of money. So if I was rolling $5 million into something, well, you can't roll that into an altcoin with a market cap of $5 million. You'll totally pump the price to like a $30 million market cap on your own. You have to throw it into something that's got a much higher market cap. It's on the bigger exchanges, and ICP is a good one for that. So next cycle, I'll probably be buying a lot more blue chips when the market is down. And at that point, a 15 or 20x is good enough. All right. Web Zombie said, see my message about tomorrow's AMA. Rain so hype. So Jack Liu of WanChain is doing an AMA. WanChain came out with some really good, like a good update to the use case of their WAN token. So bridge fees are going to be converted to WAN, and those bridge fees are going to be divided between some different uses. Really big updates that come out on WanChain. So that will be an interesting interview. Web Zombies, thanks for bringing it up to everyone.
I was just looking at the chart before we came on air. Of WanChain, and it did look quite interesting. Looked like it's getting finally ready to
why don't we
break out of that base?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump over and put it in.
Yeah, so this is the chart. So let's just zoom in there. So look, we are still stuck in this range, right? So, but we've been talking about this range on the basis of it eventually becoming a basing pattern and breaking out. And it, on this weekly chart, it looked like it's getting ready. What you're seeing is acceleration up from this support line. So you can see how it didn't hit the support line. It just bounced a little bit before, and it's bounced a little bit before again. And so this is starting to curve up. Maybe if I just zoom in a bit more, you can see how these lows are just getting higher. They're pressing up. Now it's done that before and come back down again, but it's doing it at a time when everything else is really getting stretched higher. So, and what I like is there's this overhead resistance at 30 cents and again over at 34 cents that it's heading towards. It wants, and I like breakout points. And also this looks like it's creating a double bottom. So so there's a few things that suggest this might be ready to go. It's one of those sleepers. People might have forgotten about it. They're looking elsewhere, looking at all the internet AI stuff, and that's understandable. And then all of a sudden they come back and go, oh, this one hasn't gone, and suddenly you get a big move. So again, I'm not guaranteeing it because I can't. I don't control the market, but it would definitely be one that I would be focusing on now. And I didn't know there was an AMA coming up. And often the market has a move around, announcements. So we'll just see what happens, really. But I do like the chart.
Web Zombies sharing some updated alpha on it. Their cross-chain bridges are seeing around 2 million in transaction per day, and Solana, Hedera, Algorand, and Cosmos are all coming soon. OneChain is really taking over the bridging market, the cross-chain bridging market, and their solution is just the best. And as they add these chains now, because they set up the infrastructure to do it, they're able to add other chains much faster than I've seen anyone else do. They are absolutely dominating in that space. Now, as DeFi takes off, then everyone starts thinking about bridges, because then they're moving funds between things. So I think OneChain is a sleeper that everyone's sleeping on across the general crypto market. We haven't been sleeping on them. I've been talking about them for a couple of years, but I think the timing is getting ready for that big breakout.
Yeah. Yes. What you need for a business like that is obviously you need a lot of transactions. And when do you get a lot of transactions? When the market's moving up. So there are a few businesses that are kind of going to benefit from increased volumes, and this is what we're seeing. So sometimes the market can be very efficient at picking up on things, but occasionally it isn't. It takes a little while, and then all of a sudden it kind of like the brick in the rubber band. You pull it and nothing happens. I know that's
analogy.
Yeah.
You were the first person I'd ever heard that from, but I think about that analogy all the time.
Yeah, I didn't make it up, to be honest. I'd heard it from somewhere else. It's kind of a market one that's been around for a long time, but it does describe it. It's a bit like Jasmy. Nothing happens for ages, and then all of a sudden you get this big move. So potentially that's what we're looking at. So yeah, interesting.
Jump over to Acomi.
Yeah.
Had some interesting price action. They had a massive thing go bad indirectly. Bitforex, which was one of the few places you could buy Acomi's token. So Acomi skyrocketed and looked like it wanted to go to new highs. And then one of the biggest exchanges that you could buy OMI on got massively hacked, is what it seems. Oh. And you couldn't get on, and you couldn't take your funds off, and still you can't log in and take your funds off. And it seems like it's been hacked, and that all the USDT and the Bitcoin and a lot of the tokens have been stolen off of it. The OMI wasn't touched from what we can tell, but it's most likely will put them in bankruptcy, the other thefts. And so that means that OMI might be locked up for a couple years, is that the bankruptcy proceedings, if that's the way it goes. Unfortunately, I had like 32 million OMI on it, so about 30K worth. I thought I had moved off 15 of that, but no, I hadn't yet. And the 17 million other ones I had just picked up like a week ago, so I hadn't moved them off yet. Tim Drummond, am I screwed because my OMI was on Bitforex? You and me both is my guess. Now, maybe it doesn't go that way. I can't see that they'll open up and let us withdraw our OMI, though. Like, even though our OMI wasn't stolen, that's usually not how this plays out. The weird thing about when your money is on exchanges is it's not really your money. And so if they go into bankruptcy, they have to take the remaining assets, liquidate those, and disperse them among all the holders. And so it seems like it's our money, and it should be our money because it's our crypto. It's not treated like that. At least I haven't seen it be treated like that. So what I wish would happen is they just open up and let us withdraw our OMI. I would say the chance of that happening is like 1%. That probably we're, it's not going to go well for us. Now, unfortunately, I thought a lot of the exchange failures were over. There's always a risk of hacks. An exchange can go down because of a hack at any time. Even Coinbase can go down. If you think your funds are safe on Coinbase, they're not safe anywhere. The safest place that they are is on your own wallet, where your keys are stored, with half of them in a safety deposit box at one bank, and the other half of them are the key phrase is stored in another safety deposit box at another bank. That is the safest that you can have. But even then, both banks could get burned down. So it's like there is no completely safe. And did I think Bitforex would go down? No, it's been up for a very long time. The chance of insolvency was way, way down. So then there was just the risk of a hack, which is exactly what happened. Cool. Jasmy, the Japanese National Web3 project. That's kind of what it seems Jasmy is, really. So Omi's price, that's a little bit of the background on the fundamentals. What are you seeing on the charts?
Well, yeah, it was looking good up until obviously that happened, which is such a shame. I didn't know the background to it, but this whole area was a base, or looking like it was forming a base. What we were looking for as it approached this resistance point was a breakout. Ultimately, that's what we want, to confirm this whole price action as a base. It had underperformed prior to it, but showed some strength around here, and it seemed to be catching up and more synchronized with the broader market, and which was a really good sign that was responding to the bull market. Because if it hadn't done that, then I think if we were still down here with Bitcoin around, approaching the 60,000 level, you'd be thinking there's something quite wrong with the project. The only sort of positive I can take from what you've just said, I mean, it's a completely awful situation, but at least with the project itself, there isn't, or not that we know of, any issues. I think that would be uh, potentially worse, but not much. Um, but as far as the technicals goes, we still need this level to break out to confirm the base. And whilst it's below there, it still has good potential to do that. And I'm kind of still bullish on it, on the basis that this is a base building process, and that can take quite some time. So I like the way it's come down, but rebounded quite quickly. So it has rebounded. It's not gone down and stay down, but we do still need to break this resistance point, and that's to me where I will feel much more comfortable about this having based. One element of caution that I would say is that if you look at all the highs, this high, this high, this high, this one, and now this one, they're all slightly lower. And what would have been great is if this one had broken, it would have broken that pattern to show that the technicals had changed. And because of what's happened, that's not happened. And so it means that we still have lower highs, which is, um, given that it's in a basing period, that's okay, and it's not aggressively falling highs, but it's still that piece of the puzzle that we just need to complete in order for me to feel technically more comfortable with the long-term outlook. Having said all of that, I'm still going to say it's a cautious buy, and I'm still going to go with the upside, just because you do get this sort of volatility even without the sort of news that you've just come out with, whilst the market is basing, and quite often the news is bad, whilst it's in a base, but it's how the market reacts to that. Does it shrug it off? And we'll see very quickly in the next sort of week or two. If it's anywhere near this high, then the chances of it breaking out will increase quite tremendously. So yeah, it's definitely watch the space, but I'm still cautiously bullish on it. I still think that the setup implies a basing pattern. So we shall see. But I'm guessing you haven't changed your view on it, because in fact, I was expecting you to say you were quite pleased that the market pulled back, so you could buy some, but obviously not with the circumstances we've just heard.
Oh, no, I'm quite pleased because now I have to rebuy just to get back to the position I was at. I need to buy back 12 million. I did pick up or buy back 32 million. I bought back 12 million yesterday. And so probably I'm part of that little rebound, but 12 million isn't a whole lot. So I still have 20 million to go just to where I was. And I was trying to accumulate a lot more than what I had. Like 82 million was not my goal. My goal was much, much higher. In fact, if the timing worked out, I was going to pick up significant amounts more, and it just hadn't come together. And I guess I'm pretty glad I hadn't moved much bigger funds over to Bit4X, because that would have been an even bigger disaster than it already was, having, 30, essentially 30K worth of funds over there. So, there's a chance those of us that had some OMI there, what often happens is they take the value of what it is now, and that down the road we get some portion of that value. Maybe it's the whole value, maybe it's 50% of that value. And so unfortunately, as the economy goes absolutely crazy, like we won't see any upside from our tokens from that, most likely. It'll be, what was the price of OMI at the time of the hack, which, you know, was around 0.1 cents or 0.001 cents, and then get some portion of value there. So you may get some of your funds back, but the upside in everything that we were investing for, like that potential, is pretty much stripped from us on those tokens.
So if it goes up a lot, then they give you the price where it is now. And if it goes down a lot, they'll probably say that they can't liquidate it to give you anything back. So
yeah, by the time it happens, it'll be like a year or two from now, which means the bull market will probably be over. But I imagine that even the new lows will be a lot higher than where things are now, but we won't really get that upside. So that will help the exchange out to be more liquid, because they had massive amounts of USDT and Bitcoin stolen. So they'll be more solvent, and that'll help the people who lost USDT and Bitcoin be more whole, but it won't benefit us, even though it'll be our OMI being sold at higher values that help them be more solvent. So I don't like that structure. I wish the laws would change that, like, your crypto is your crypto, but that's not how it is. Yes, OMI is pumping. Have I seen VV Vault's video about VV being a scam? Very interesting. Yeah, VV being a scam. Some people. Let's jump over to, what's the next one? So for me, it's still buy, and I have been buying. So obviously, anything under 0.001, in my opinion, is a huge gift. Very positive on Ecomi and buying more. There was a question earlier about, do I like Ecomi or Spores better? I like both. They hold different risk profiles for me, so I hold a lot of both. I do hold more OMI though. All right, let's jump over. Also, we had someone suggest Vision Games and Litlab Games, and I was a little bit rushed this morning and didn't check those before. So Vision Game is just Vision is their ticker symbol, but there's a couple things with Vision in their name, so finding the chart might be okay. You got it.
Is this the right one? Yeah, Vision Game. Yeah, I'm glad actually, because this is an interesting looking chart. Again, it's one of those ones where it's been on the run, and you know, you can't look at everything, can you? There's so many, but it's interesting that we've got to analyze it now. So bear market, this created key resistance. Obviously, big old bear market down to here. You see, this final part was a big capitulation, and it V'd off the low. In fact, it's gone up faster than it's gone down, and that's very rare. So some big change of heart there. Really interesting. I mean, rarely have I seen the market actually turn around quite as fast as that in such a short space of time. Usually you get a bit more of a consolidation before it, you know, the market kind of licks its wounds a bit. Whatever's going wrong with the project gets slowly solved, and then the market looks at the potential for the upside. But that happened very, very quickly. So without knowing the history, I'm sure you guys know a bit more about what happened there. But where we are now is it's come back to this resistance zone, which you'd normally expect it to be a bit sticky at this level, just because it's where it stopped, and there's a lot of kind of memories of how it dumped from there. So the fact that it's gone back to there and there's been some profit taking is understandable, but this is coming back again to try and take this level out, which is what I like. So for me, I like the fact that it's doing this and it's not retraced that much. It stayed quite close to the top of that range as well. So the summary for me would be that I like it as a buy, and I think the breakout point is this 0.008. But I would personally, and I'm not saying everyone should obviously always do what they want to do, but I would personally want to buy it just ahead of it, expecting a sharp breakout. Now the risk of that is that it just goes sideways and you know, maybe even comes down. Who knows? There's no guarantee. But it for the breakout, this would be a significant technical situation. There's the resistance there, the resistance here again. It may even take a couple of goes to do it, but if I was to take a long-term view on it, I would like to buy that breakout. So I wouldn't mind nibbling a bit here and then adding a bit more on the breakout point if and when it comes. So for me, it's a buy. And because this is such a sharp move, I always try and think of a parachute level where to get out just in case things go wrong. But I would have to say it's something I would look at this range and then maybe take the 50% of that range. And if it breaks below that, that's where I'd exit and say, okay, find something else or reevaluate on the macro position. Because the way I look at things, I always have to have an exit point. Technically, because I'm not looking at the fundamentals, so I may not spot something that might be, bearish for the project. So I have to use price action. So yeah, so for me, for the moment, it's a buy.
Nice. I was looking at Litlab, and their charts look very similar because we're running short on time. And so I'm just going to take the one suggestion from that person. There was one person that suggested both. Their charts have a lot of similarities. I did want to jump over to Chris's comment / question, if we could look at Flare.
Sure.
We haven't covered Flare in a long time. Let me just share my thoughts on Vision real quick. Market cap still low. It hit it was at $300,000 market cap here. And what happened is Alex Becker started covering blockchain gaming. A lot of people who hadn't been paying attention to it started paying attention to it, and it ran 10x. And since then, it really didn't retrace much from there, just a little bit. So it retraced a tiny bit and now is up from there, looking like it might break up higher. Market cap still pretty low. If I were seriously thinking about buying this, I would try to watch some EMAs by the founders and be checking out what's going on there. I always like to check their Twitter. Looks like their Twitter has 60,000 followers, and they can always pay for followers on Twitter. So I do like to see what kind of engagement they get. So 57K views on this, 139K views on this. So it looks like they're getting some traction. So this one does look interesting. Great suggestion. Specifically, Chris asked us to look at Flare and Alluvium. Both of those are ones that I'd like to look at too. And Chris does do our timestamps on the video, so he did get moved to the front of the line for that.
Yeah, it's very kind that you do that, Chris. It must take you a bit of time, but Flare, I mean, this is a great upward trend. Hopefully, when we last talked about it, I can't think why I would say anything bearish about it because I can't see anything bearish on the chart. So my view must have been bullish. You can see these technical patterns. This was one of those consolidations that I was mentioning earlier. But each of these consolidations has been bullish, and that's an ascending triangle. This is another ascending triangle. This is another breakout into a new high. It's outperforming the rest of the market. The only thing I could say that's negative on it at this point is that possibly it is getting a little too ahead of itself, and it does need to have a correction. But that's just a statement that most people say when the market's going up really fast and they want to buy it. So there's no actual technical pattern as yet to indicate that the market is ready to turn. Now, that doesn't mean it won't go down. This could be the top, but the thing with technicals is you could have said that at any point along this trend, and it's still trending higher. Volumes jumped a lot in the last few sessions, and I wonder maybe what's behind that. But volume generally has been going up, and I don't think that's a bad thing because it's rising with the trend. So I can understand if there's very strong temptations to take profits. That's a trading kind of view in the sense that one has to decide how they want to trade and invest. Is it long term? Is it short term? Are they going to buy it and sell that out of position and buy more low? And there's so many different ways of doing that. I mean, one sensible thing to do is to potentially get out of your principal capital, which allows you then to just run the rest without any risk, because it means you've taken all your risk off the table and everything else you're running as profit. So that's one way of doing it. But as far as I can see, technically, it's still going up, and that's all I can say. I would just be watching it fairly closely to see if it makes some form of reversal, but it's leading the way, and that's a really good sign. And if I may as well just tie in the Illuvium chart as well, that to me is looking bullish as well. This has formed a base. This looks like a double bottom pattern, although it came back for a retest of support. It's also come back to break that resistance just as quickly. It could be one of the ones that people find harder to buy because of the dollar value is much higher. It's not just a few cents and with loads of decimal points that make things really confusing. But so you're not going to get as much for your small investment. But when it comes to choosing whether to buy something or not from a technical point of view, it's really what the chart looks like rather than what the numbers look like. And the chart looks like it's basing. So it's broken a very important resistance point. And when markets do that, they normally continue to trend. And as I mentioned before, no guarantee that it will definitely trend, but it has a very good probability given that it's broken such a key resistance point. So I'd be looking for more upside. And if we take this retracement, I'd expect it to at least go that amount to the upside, but really it should go quite a lot more than that. But again, be careful about having a value in your mind, because what I look for is the market then tells me when it's overbought, and that's where I look to get out, rather than just saying, well, I need this particular number to be hit and then I'm going to get out, if that makes sense. So you let the market tell you when it's going to exit. That's a technical thing, rather than saying I must only get out at X price and ignoring what could be some bearish signals if and when they come in. But yeah, for the moment, both of those two still look like they're a buy.
Yeah. I like to break out on Illuvium. Let me just find this button for that. Great. Let's jump back to Flare. Now, Flare, unfortunately for me, is a higher price than what's interesting. It could do really crazy numbers, though. And if you're in the Discord, so the Discord you can only access through the private Patreon. So you have to join the Patreon to get access to the Discord. But one of our good friends, Sailing, has been covering what's going on with Flare since these bottoms. And so there was a lot of the rainmakers got really educated on Flare, not from me, but from other really smart people in our Discord. Sailing has an amazing background, is completely on top of what's going on with the ISO coins. And so a lot of the Rainmaker family got in on Flare when it was nice and cheap back here. And it's since done what, like that's about a 7x since then. And so that was a really juicy price. Here, the market cap is at 1.7 billion. Can something like this go 100x? I can't say I know enough about it to know if it can. Now, I do agree that potentially XRP, which by extension Flare, like XRP could hit market caps that seem unreal for a blue chip. So could Flare also do that? It's possible. I just don't know enough about it. I always get hesitant to chase big green candles like this. And those are some big green candles. And I think what happened is something came out with Flare where you could like stake your Flare, earn more on your Flare. And then numbers were really good, if I'm remembering right. And so there was just this massive incentive to keep getting Flare because there was a really good financial reason for it. And so I can't buy in at these prices. It is a higher market cap than I usually like, but if I can see that it can go 100x from here, I'm still okay with a market cap where this is at. But kind of my threshold is I'm looking for things that have the potential to go 100x or plus. The next one is Illuvium. And can Illuvium go 100x from here? Possibly. If Illuvium becomes one of the biggest blockchain games and blockchain gaming takes the national stage and say Illuvium becomes the third highest played game in the world, it could absolutely hit 100x from here. It was really juicy back here at 40 bucks. And that's when I was calling it a strong buy. And that's when I was buying a bunch myself at this lower trend line that was juicy as could be. Now it's up 2.5x from here. So one of the problems that you run into when you start to hit this point in the market is that a lot of things are not at the lows that they were at. And so sometimes when you get to this stage, you don't have 100x potential left, and you have to choose from a whole bunch of coins that have already ran. Now, there are a few that haven't left the dock. That's what I call it, like leaving the dock, where the price is still nice and juicy. The chances for 100x gains are still there. But once those all leave the dock, then your choices are, okay, what are the best returns out of what's still available? And so it's starting to get to that point. We're no longer in the super juicy period that I was super excited about, and most people were not. But I love this really cheap zone and loading up there. And then I really love what comes after I've loaded up at the really cheap zone. So there's a few things at a pretty cheap zone. I think Bumper, I like Animal Concerts. Wand Chain is in that super cheap zone that hasn't really left the dock. There's a bunch that or I wouldn't say a bunch. There's still some. Omi technically hasn't really left the dock. Anything under 0.001, in my opinion, is still like at a really cheap price. So there's some that are still there. Illuvium's leaving the dock. You can see it's 2.5x from where it was. Cool. Actually 3x from where it was. Is it a bad price? No, it's not a bad price. It's just not a great price. Now, they do have so few tokens. So there's only 6.2 million tokens. So the price per token seems so high, but that's because they have so few tokens overall. In fact, 2/3 of their tokens are in supply. A lot of these will come into circulation over the coming years. And so, yeah, I do like Illuvium. I do think it stands a chance to be one of the biggest played games in the world. And if that happens, it could 100x from here. All right. Shoot, we're running short on time. Paul, thank you for joining us today. I know we had a number of suggestions we weren't able to get to. I think Chris made the flare suggestion last week and we weren't able to get to it. So I did bump him to the front of the line because also, like I said, he does do our timestamps. That does earn some extra credit with us. Brian, Paul, thank you for the super chat there. Who says, thanks for the show as always. Sailing gave us more. Flare is an EVM sidechain built on Avalanche. It brings all assets to Flare. There we go. Cool.
Sure. Yeah, there's always next week. You know, I'm sure we can make sure we don't miss any. And you know, a pleasure as always. And look forward to next week and seeing what people want to look at.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Paul, for joining us. I have a few final words for everyone. We appreciate it, Paul.
No problem. My pleasure. See you next week.
All right. So we're hitting the really good part of the market, and who knows, like we could take off a little bit and then come back, but you're starting to see where this is going, and that is going where you hoped it would go. It is going to be massive. A few things. If you haven't already followed me on Instagram, like, what do we really come to crypto for? I don't know about you, but I came for fixing a few things. There's a few things as men we're trying to fix in our lives. One is our finances, one is our fitness, and one is like social dynamics and getting good socially. And so there's nothing better that can take care of finances. But what does taking care of finances give you? Well, hopefully lifestyle, that you're able to enjoy things. And so Instagram's kind of an ideal place that I share some of the fun things going on in lifestyle, right? Am I spending a whole lot yet? No, not a whole lot yet, just some, you know, more than I normally do, because I usually live pretty frugally so that I could throw it all into crypto. But now I'm starting to just take a little bit and actually do some fun things in life. And so with Instagram, it's just kind of sharing with you like where it goes after 2 cycles in crypto and what to look forward to. And so the Instagram, there's a link below in the description, but it's essentially the real crypto rain. Yes, somebody had already taken crypto rain. Somebody else had even taken real crypto rain. Okay. So yeah, I took the real crypto rain. Secondly, like if you're fairly new to crypto or even experienced, if you haven't taken my Zero to Crypto Hero course, there's a link to that below, plus a coupon code that will get you half off. That course is designed to really help shape how you think about crypto. What I've seen is 95% of people just do mediocre or poor or even bad in crypto. It's because they're not thinking about it the right way. They're not playing the game the right way. And it very much is a game. And if you play this game the right way, the rewards are gigantic. But so many come in and they don't realize the true rules of the game, and they just go with the flow and do what most everyone else is doing. That doesn't lead to very good results. So that course is designed to help you think about it in the way that all the people that I know that are rich from crypto over the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they all think about it this way. This is how they operate. And so it really is just helping you be efficient with how you think about it. Now, there is a charge to the course. Of course there is. And the problem is the course is too cheap. And the reason is because if you treat it like you paid $10,000 for it, you would absolutely use that information. You would prize that information and you would follow it religiously, and you would do exceptionally well. So the course is right now, and this will be going up more over time, it's $400. And with the code, you get $200 off. So consider that, because I put that together specifically to help people understand the rules of this game so much better so they can do far better. I wish when I was new, I had a course like that. It would have shaved probably 18 months off my learning curve. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you all soon. You know what this wrap is all about. Enjoy.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road could soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn.